Hi, my name is Ben Whitby, and welcome to another episode of Qredo Does DeFi with Real Vision. Today, we are joined by a legend in the space, Lex Sokolin. Lex, you and I have known each other for a long time now, and I'm totally blown away with all your insights and your kind of your drive and passion for the decentralized finance space. It's no wonder that you're head economist at Consensys.
Thanks, Ben. That's very kind of you to say. I do tweet a little bit, and I'm excited for this conversation.
Yeah, it's really cool to kind of finally get something down on tape and kind of recording. It's a really exciting time in terms of the excitement that the evolution of this space has taken from when we kind of first met in 2017, 2018, to now, to really where things are really kind of shaping up. But maybe you can give us a little bit of history and background in terms of what got you excited with crypto and what brought you into the space.
Sure. So my journey into the space has been a slow radicalization. If you're ever watching YouTube and you're on a video that you chose, and then you just keep clicking next and next and next, and then 20 minutes later, it's like the earth is flat, everybody's a lizard person, and just conspiracy land. And in some way, that's what's happened to me. I started out my career in traditional finance at Lehman, right before the bankruptcy, and got a training in investment management and human nature. The second of which I think was much more valuable, probably. And out of that, I went into fintech. In the early 2010s, I started and ran a robo-advisor and then a wealth tech firm, and spent a lot of time thinking about how to transform or digitize the financial experience that people have, how consumers and users interact with financial products. And my entrepreneurial experience left me kind of unsatisfied with the scope of what it meant to put a financial product into a website. It felt very incremental. It felt very small. It wasn't really doing damage to the incumbents in the way that Google did damage to media, Netflix did damage to film, and in this way, if you're an entrepreneur, yes, you want to build a business, but at least for me, I wanted a little bit of that creative destruction that comes with building something that's meaningful. And so in around 2016, 2017, I was in equity research at the time, looking at a lot of these large platform shifts, like the platform shifts in artificial intelligence, machine learning, blockchain, augmented commerce, and then of course kind of the smaller themes of neobanks and pay tech and reg tech and all the venture capital bingo. And I saw the steady stream of ICOs on Ethereum coming through, and the capital formation that was happening there, while working with some of the largest exchanges in the world that had no interest or respect or kind of appreciation of what it means of crowdfunding finally working. And I found it really compelling that you could have a financial system that ran on very different rails, fundamentally different rails, that manufactured products without using any of the core banking systems or portfolio management systems or card network rails or any of the stuff that you would have to be forced into as a fintech entrepreneur. And then also saw some of the initial promises of, well, what if it's not just finance? What if it's an actual economy, like a computational economy on this network? And for me, that was just, it felt like the right answer in terms of what hasn't happened in the past decade touching financial services. And so I joined Consensys in 2019. It's been 3 years on a very special hamster wheel, and I'm having a ton of fun.
Yeah, you've always had you've always had an incredible vision. I mean, when everybody else was kind of in the blockchain space talking about how they were going to kind of pay for coffee, you were always looking to disrupt capital markets and create capital markets 2.0. And that's why I always enjoy our conversations and kind of hearing what your brain's doing next with all the various other different information that you're kind of unlocking at this moment in time. What's on the forefront of your mind for 2022?
Oh, that's a big question very quickly, Ben. It's a hard one to answer in, I think, a distinct way. So there are some themes that lots of people talk about, right? So those themes of the metaverse, the themes of NFT-based economies, and those economies coming out of gaming worlds. And you see Facebook becoming Meta. You see Epic, the company behind the Unreal Engine, which de facto renders most of the virtual environments out there, raising $2 billion to go into metaverse. You see Coinbase with its NFT play that looks like Instagram. And so I think a lot of kind of short to medium term stuff is going to be about the mainstream discovering digital objects, falling in love with them, having some negative capital gains and capital loss experiences, and then kind of figuring out and understanding what the stuff is actually for. And there's no way to get there other than by getting through it. But I think it's fantastic. Every single large brand, from Disney to DC to high-end artists like Damien Hirst, they're all engaging with digital objects. And so it's something that I'm very passionate about, and I watch it, but I don't think it's kind of particularly insightful to point that out. The broader theme, the thing that I'm kind of obsessed with right now, is this idea of this immediately kind of gets into the poetry of things, but the idea that what we're seeing is a pivot of the world, even more so into this opposition of institutionalism and populism. Whereas, you might have had kind of a neoliberal, maybe conservative, maybe sort of more liberal world with economic policy that looks the same on both sides, but different social beliefs on in the two different camps. I think there's been this geopolitical reorientation into populism, which has been pretty obvious, but like libertarianism, anarchism, as well as on the left. And this is now reverberating into our software worlds. And we now have the development of these two internets that are that feel very splintered to me, where we have a very institutional internet with Google, Facebook, Apple being these enormously efficient robot factories, gigantic robot factories that farm attention, that reward you with dopamine, that keep you in your device, that market and intermediate your attention as a product, that extend into sovereigns and sovereigns extend into them, and so you can see the institutional story in lots of different ways. You can see it in COVID and the masks. You can see it in Russia and the central banks. You can find it in lots of places. And then the other side, the other part of the dialectic, is this populism, which brings together some really strange stuff. So it's the anarchism of Bitcoin, the apocalypse insurance of the world will burn down and we will have our digital money. It's also the Ethereum Web3 ethos of, the water is poisoned in venture land, and so we must build anew on decentralized, trustless ground and build a new kind of economy in which to be. It's also the quality of the hackers. The sort of, I'm going to steal as much as I can from every corner that I can, and it's my right because we're in the Wild West. And so it's this anarchist flavor with a hyper-capitalism underneath it, because Ethereum and Solana and the like all, perpetuate these property rights, these economic property rights, and DeFi allows us to trade and so on, right? So there's this wildness and harshness to the architecture. And then on top of that, we're now having a very collectivist almost utopian communism emerge with decentralized autonomous organizations, where people are coming together and saying, we, the consumers, pool together our labor in order to volunteer to build platforms from which we benefit as a merit of our consumption. So it is workers of the world unite and seize the means of production. It literally, that's what's happening with DAOs, but it's sitting on top of this anarchism. And the unifying thesis there is individualism and property rights and self-sovereignty and the self relative to the corporate body or the sovereign body. And I think, again, that's not necessarily very insightful when it relates to politics, but it is insightful when it relates, I think, to the two internets, because you do have this echo of these philosophies now being built into software. And that in many ways, that's terrifying, because software just lasts and lasts and lasts. And so for me, I'm paying a lot of attention to what that means and what kind of structures come out, what does DAO governance mean, and trying to place it in the context of kind of what I've described.
Hey there, revolutionaries. Thanks for tuning in. For more content like this, head over to realvision.com/crypto and get unfiltered access to the most brilliant minds in finance and crypto. Join our community of lifelong learners for exclusive access, unparalleled education, and unbiased insights.